It's fine, sweetie.
Yo, yo, yo.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
I'm all right. It's fine, sweetie. It's a podcast. Normally it's with me and you, but somebody's out sick today.
So it's just me and you.
Yeah, I'm Dream or Andrea, and that is.
Danny.
Speaking of sick, Oklahoma, where I live, has successfully become a haven for people who don't believe in vaccinations, and we've brought back whooping cough. So everybody's sick
Congratulations.
because yeah, it's I'm pretty proud of us actually.
Maybe next year you guys will have what, like measles and polio.
Yeah, we're just gonna take a real Victorian, just to, commit children, unlearned children to their bed chambers.
Was
Yeah,
part
that's.
of the like vaccination or push against vaccination is like you don't need it to enroll in school.
I guess you don't because they've had whole school districts that have had to shut down.
Yeah.
And I think whooping cough, one of those vaccinations, like they don't last forever. Like they last about 5 years, but then by the time you're 5 years old, most of the population is supposed to be vaccinated from it, and then so that's not happening. So, yeah,
very interesting. But Oklahoma is scary, and in a lot of ways, I think like, oh man, I should. Sometimes I think about like going back and trying to like live with family or whatever. But living in Oklahoma sounds super scary.
Yeah, we looked at moving to California, but all we could afford was a trailer, and it was still $400,000, and it was an old trailer.
Yeah, my goal now is to just buy a condo, and that's what I'm working towards. But even that is gonna, take some saving unless I can figure out how to do the GI Bill.
Oh yeah, are there people that can help you with that?
I don't know, honestly. It's been frustrating. There's some people that say they can help, and then they all just send you the same forms, and they don't seem like they can help at all. But anyway, yeah. So, what were you gonna say? You were about William, or?
Oh yeah, we were talking about how conservative Black people are, and I was telling him that like if Republicans could just like be less racist, like hide the racism. Did you freeze? That most Black people would be Republicans because we're very, very socially conservative. And then like when things like Blue Ivy come along, I think that really shows. Like when she was at the Lion King premiere and everybody was like, why does she look so grown? Why is she wearing that dress? And I'm like, number one, her mom is Beyonce, her dad is Jay-Z. If she showed up in a sack, people would have a comment about that. Remember when she wasn't getting her hair done professionally when she was like 5 and people lost their minds? So that would never work. And then, sorry, my dog was messing with me. I lost my train of thought. But then also, she's really tall.
Yeah.
So I think she looks a lot older than she actually is. And then number 3, like, it's not like she was scantily clad. Like she just had on some makeup.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know. I think it's really interesting when we think about like, kids being little celebrities, and this is her first. I guess like the difference between like her and the kids that were on Blackish. Remember when the kids are on Blackish, when she produced her movie? I don't know how old she was, but she was probably like 14 or 15 or something. That one with Taraji P. Henson. And I feel like she showed up to movie premieres with like, designer dresses, makeup on. And I think we just have some kind of weird standard for Beyonce specifically.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that we think about clothes like when we were little, when like those clothes don't exist anymore, right? Like she's not going to go out in a long tunic and skinny jeans and a heel because like they don't exist. That's not the way that anybody dresses.
Like Jermaine Dupri did at the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like with her like little fluffy socks.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I guess I think that there's probably a lot of internalized, like, misogyny and the patriarchy, like, embedded in, unfortunately, like, the Black community and how we see our children. And so, like, when folks were sharing and like, this is me at 12 and this is Blue Ivy at 12, you're like, yeah, but come on, bro. Like it's also
you weren't going on the red carpet.
Yeah, you were not. Your mom was not Beyonce. Like, let's keep it a buck. You weren't like starring in a film. You weren't like doing the voice for the Lion King. Like, it's just not the same thing. Like,
but again, when Blue was dressing more casually, they were going in on her anyway. So,
but I think that the thing is that, like, the more I think we live in this world where you want to be able to take feedback. You want to be able to hear, the criticism of you, and you want to be able to, like, not be so removed that you don't take feedback. But at the same time, like, some feedback is just, it's also just like showing how much you don't like yourself. So it's really hard. There's like this fine line of like trying to balance taking feedback and being receptive to, like, taking on everybody's craziness.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, which is why I just feel like people feel like it's their job, like they have to criticize something, like in order to like fully love somebody or fully be engaged with them, that is to be in critique of them. And I don't think that that's necessary all the time, but I feel like people, like, we live in a very critique heavy society.
Yeah, but I also think that people just like there might be a first initial reaction to something, and instead of like challenging your reaction, like, people just say whatever.
Yeah.
So, like, if I like, I think we talked about like the time I went to school in leather and then got sent, they made me change. And even though it wasn't like, it wasn't like a leather corset or anything like that, it was like a leather overall jumpsuit that me and my friend were wearing, and she wore a corduroy one and I was wearing the leather one, and they were like, oh, this is inappropriate, and they make you change. So then as an adult, you start kind of like thinking that leather means, party time. Leather,
right.
We're going to get sexy with it, and really, so when people are wearing leather to work, then I'm like, oh,
that's inappropriate. Yeah.
Ooh, but the truth is, so I have to like question myself, like, what is that based in? Now, I even think about that when my kids are at school. Like, there was a school performance and they had to wear red shirts, and I completely spaced to get a red shirt, but I had an adult red shirt for my 6-year-old. So I went and I cut it to, make it smaller for her. And then when she came home, she was like, oh, Mom, it was too short. When I raised my arms, my belly button was exposed. And I was like, what is it with dress codes and belly buttons? Like, why are we so obsessed with like making sure little kids' belly buttons aren't exposed when they raise their...
Yeah, I don't know. We're like seeing torso.
Like, men walk around. I mean, women too, but you really see a lot of men and you see the top of their butt crack all the time.
I don't know what brought us to a point where we're like, I guess because you're close to naked, like the more percentage of your body that's exposed, like you should really only have like, what is it, 25%, like 2 hands and a head. I mean, that's like maybe 10% of your body. So the closer you get to 100%, the worse it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, yeah, I don't know who deemed like belly buttons as like, ooh, sexy. But
because you also can't like wear tank tops or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, like some dress code stuff is really ridiculous. And you think about it and you're like, well, I don't really understand. Like, I don't know.
But it goes into adulthood, because I remember like I work from home now, but working in the office was always fraught with like terribleness. When I worked at this place and it was like a tech, we were in tech, we were making software, and this girl started, and she was really young, and she was a software engineer. She was cute. She was like really cute. And but it was casual. Like you could wear casual clothes. Like you could just wear whatever you wanted, basically, to a certain extent. but she would come in like very stylish and have like holes in her jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this older product owner who just like freaked. Like everybody was like, I think that's on the line. But she lost her fucking mind and like started this like war with her. And like eventually the girl, I don't know if she quit or got fired, but it was a hostile situation because
I
she
wonder
dared
if
to
it goes
wear.
back into like the self-hate.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to another like person who is trans, and they were saying like they think that a lot of the hate has to do with people upset that you're living your authentic self.
I agree with that. I think that, yeah, I think that it really offends people when other people don't feel the need to conform.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like one of the arguments you hear all the time is you're shoving it in my face and you're making me have to deal with it. And I'm like, you don't have to deal with shit. Like if you just weren't trying to police everybody's everything, like it wouldn't matter to you. You wouldn't even notice. You would just go about your business.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's probably a lot to dig into there of like, yeah, especially when it comes to like young Black women and young Black girls and what they wear and like what standard we have for them, like of like, oh, she shouldn't show her shoulders, but like again, why are shoulders so sexy?
Right. Like what are they gonna do?
Yeah, like what's the shoulder mean? Like, it's not a private area, so who cares? But obviously somebody does.
Do you hear about that guy who like pissed off his whole neighborhood and they like did this segment on the news? I don't remember where it was. I think it was in Arizona. And he's like, yeah, I have to walk when I walk my dogs, like nobody talks to me. And if they do, is to give me the middle finger or to cuss me out. And so you're like, oh, okay, what's going on? Well, he lives in an area with an HOA, but it's an older neighborhood, so the HOA isn't enforced.
Mhm.
So, like people who have commercial jobs and have commercial cars and bring them home, you're not supposed to park them on the street according to the HOA. But like, where else are you going to park your? Like, you're responsible for the company vehicle. You need to be able to
Yeah.
see it. You can't park it on a street someplace else and let somebody break into it.
Hmm.
So now they can't do that because he sued the entire neighborhood and required them to enforce everything in the HOA to the letter because he said that it violated his rights to not have it enforced, and the courts agreed with him. And I just wonder, like, what that mentality is. Like, why is it so troublesome to you? What other people are doing to the point where you have to
But
spend your
isn't that
money?
that strong sense of justice of like, well, these are rules, and why do we have them if we're not enforcing them?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, then he's like, and why are you upset with me? Like, I didn't even make the rules, Like, why don't you guys just go through the process of
Changing the rules.
changing the rules if you're so upset? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also, I just don't understand HOAs.
Well, I don't really understand HOAs anymore either. I feel like they're an outdated concept. Like, obviously, I have a friend who lives in this neighborhood where everybody has an RV. And I feel like, when I drive around there, I'm like, yeah, you guys probably could benefit from a HOA because it does look really fucking weird in here. Like all the yards with like RVs and like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a
Mhm.
lot. But like but at the end of the day, like, mind your business and I'll mind mine.
I
I
think
think
a
that
lot of political things could be solved if people just minded their own
Yeah, I think
business.
that like the stuff that's scary is like for a little while there was people, like living in RVs and especially like around the Rose Bowl, you just don't know. So it's like really beneficial to know who's in your neighborhood just because of your kids typically.
Yeah, I get that, but I feel like that is something in particular that gets taken care of in a city ordinance.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's like you guys aren't like doing the neighborly thing of like helping each other out. So you just want to have the HOA to regulate stuff.
Yeah, it's like we replaced community with guidelines
Yeah, over policing.
and rules and policing.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think that like even when you think about like the lady who was upset about the warming centers, and
Hmm.
she's like, well, these homeless folks don't want to be helped. And like, they're already in your neighborhood. Like when I think about, I was like, man, if I had money, I feel like I would change all these like dilapidated buildings that people are already sleeping in front of to like some kind of like, you know, place where they can sleep. Because again, like I know that if you had the money and you were trying to get it zoned and trying to build it, then all these people would come out of the woodworks. But like at a certain time of night, you can't walk down that street because everybody's like coming home, so to speak.
Right.
Like get ready to go to sleep in front of all these abandoned buildings. So it's like you might as well give them shelter.
Right. Do something
maybe
with that.
To have human feces on the street.
Which is a problem. Like that's how plagues start, honestly.
Right. But then like on that same thing, when I think I showed you that one where that woman was saying that she works at a homeless shelter and she makes $240,000 a year. And he was like, well, they're spending $65 million on this housing. And I don't know why they think it's a good use of money. And I really desperately wanted to know if he is from here. Because I was like, do you live in LA? Like, do you know? Anyway, it's just a whole other thing. Like, to run an agency of that size, like, I don't know what you think they should make. But, yeah, like, they're not, I don't know. It just seems like we get really upset at the folks who, like, are making the 240s. But, like, the people we're talking about with the billionaire salaries are making way more than that.
Right. My thing,
bonuses and options and all kind of stuff.
My thing that I always want to say to people is like, I remember like in COVID, you know, everybody had to go home and then we would have like Zoom meetings to like connect or whatever. Mm-hmm. And we had this one guy and he was like the COO. So he was the executive over like, it was a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. And he would get on and he would just be talking. He's like, yeah, you know, my son had to come home from Ibiza and he just really loves Ibiza and it's so sad and blah, blah, blah. And when people were like, oh, how old is he? And he's like, oh, you know, 28. So he's just like living on daddy's money in Ibiza and like doesn't have a job. He's like, you know, he just likes to relax and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, there are actual 28-year-olds here trying to figure out how to pay their rent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're on the call, Bob. Shut the fuck up.
And it is a different world. It's a different world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so you know that guy, like you've all had this experience. I don't care where you work in an office, you've had this experience. You're trying to figure out how to save for retirement and do all this stuff and you're stretched thin and there's somebody, you know, coming to work in a new Mercedes every year and you think to yourself, that guy isn't doing that much more work than I am. Mm-hmm. And every year all I get is a 3% raise at best.
Yeah.
And how does that not wake you up to the fact of when people say you didn't create all that wealth yourself, you extracted it from other people? Like, I just cannot understand how those two concepts don't connect in people's brains because I know that everybody's had that experience.
I think that I don't really know. I guess like one, there's like this fear that like if I agree that they extracted wealth, then I will never achieve it. Because then like I'm voting it out or, you know, saying that this thing shouldn't exist. But so maybe there's that like kind of fear of like disrupting the way of life because they have some, you know, desire to be the guy. But then also just kind of like being like, well, everyone has an opportunity, you know, you could just do the right thing. I don't know what it is. I'm sure there's, again, some kind of psychological term or thing that we could look up and have some discussion around. But I think that a lot of people just think that eventually they're going to be the man.
But you're not. And you don't actually have an opportunity to ever be the CEO of anything. Like, you're not going to work your way up from office worker to CEO. Like, you're not going to. And you can't point at somebody that did.
Be the executive that's, you know, sending my kid to Ibiza.
You're not. You literally are not. You're not.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that like that might just feel like being pessimistic to say like, well, you're not going to. So I don't really know. I feel like the messaging to folks needs to be different because I think also that what's really clear to me is that when people are doing like anti-union spills or whatever, they're very like clear that they're like, oh, we don't have enough money to do that. And then like a lot of folks have said, we're in the punishment phase of like people leaving their jobs and going to get better ones and whatever. So now all these companies are trying to prove to workers that they don't need us, that we need them.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what the, bad customer service or anything that people are experiencing, they're really just like, this is what kind of you get. And so I don't know. I do think that there's a piece of like trying to wish and hope and like hold on to a piece of this dream.
But I just don't understand why reality doesn't kick in, because you haven't had a promotion in 5 years, right? Like you haven't had a promotion in 5 years, but you get good marks every time you get a review, and somehow you think that's going to translate into you ascending up the ladder to become the COO.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess like the other thing is that we don't really know if we're talking about the same people. Like, are these the same folks, or is it just like people who have an idealized version of like what would happen if they were working in a corporate setting, or when maybe they own a business and they're like having a hard time making payroll, and so they're like thinking that they would be better if they could just not pay payroll. I think the other thing that's really hard is when you do own a small business and you pay, like I pay, $20 an hour for the most part. It's expensive. It's like a lot of money. But then like people come to work and they act like they act like you're not paying them at all. Like, like that's kind of, I think that like if I think about my own, lived experience, that's like what I understand. And then you meet with other business owners, and my friend is saying she pays $26 an hour. And then you'll walk in there and folks will be like, I don't know where that is.
See, but I also feel like that's two different things. Like,
yeah. So, but I'm wondering if the people who are like these small business owners are the ones that are like hoping one day to be the COOs, not necessarily the person who hasn't been promoted in 5 years. Like, I'm not sure, because I think that like we're just talking. We're not really looking at like, who we're talking about. But I think that there might be a mix of that, of like people who think that like they're going to come up with a really great idea and then they're going to have to hire people. And then these people are all going to suck and they're going to be broke paying people.
Yeah, but the laws governing like a Fortune 500 company, which is what it would take for you to become a billionaire, and a small business that's doing under 10 million a year, like the rules are different.
Yeah. But it also just feels like, oh, all I need is for someone to notice me. And then all of a sudden I've got $1 million idea. But like, I only have $150,000 a year and these people are already telling me to go fuck myself. So how am I going to find, more people to help me achieve this dream when no one wants to work? I think that's like where those things come from, like where all these like little phrases come from too. But like, especially in California, because again, in California, it's very pro-employee. So there's so many things that you do have to do for the employee here. So we have to offer a 401k. You have to offer sick leave. You have to offer, like $20 an hour at least if you're a restaurant owner. All these things that are just like pieces that are legitimately expensive. So I think that people might like extrapolate like their lived experience to like, what the CEOs are saying. But I also think, I'm not really sure, because when that whole thing happened and a lot of people were like, yeah, I totally understand why he might target a CEO of this kind of company. And the only people who seem to be really upset are other billionaires.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's like, why don't people put two and two together? Because I don't feel like those are the same thing.
Figure out like why they don't put it together, or is it the like everyday people that you're trying to figure out why they don't put it together?
Like, I don't understand how everyday people don't put two and two together. Like, everybody that works an office job that doesn't dream of owning a small business, you go to work and I know you see that guy and I know that's what you think. And I don't understand why there aren't more people who have class consciousness just on that fact alone. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think that we think about like our father, then I think for him, he's like, well, he manages people and managing people suck. And I don't want to do that. So I think like some folks have realized like, oh, okay, this is like, I'm content in this space.
But the CEO doesn't manage people. He has an assistant, and then he has other executives that have to answer to him. He doesn't actually manage people.
Well, yeah, like the executives that he has to work with, they do. But I'm not saying that that justifies the amount of money that folks are paid.
Right. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't get paid commiserate with their station.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying $10 million a year when there are people that can't. I don't understand how people don't see I am making, I'm barely making my rent, but this guy has $10 million a year every year. Does he do enough to earn that $10 million? Why isn't $1 million enough? Why isn't $2 million enough?
Yeah.
Because if that other 8 million came back down and then multiply that by 20 CEOs, I could get a raise.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
What style of government is that? Is that socialism?
I don't even think it's socialism. I'm not trying to own the means of production. I'm just it's still capitalism. It's regulated capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like for the most part, I'm not really sure. I think there's just like a lot of people that probably just don't want government to tell them what to do because they just think that like things are slippery. But I agree. I mean, it does seem like I think that the challenge for me is like bonuses because, like it's one thing to be like, okay, this is my base salary, 2 million. But then there's the bonuses. And I feel like whatever rules there are, that's like how people are getting around it. It's bonusing themselves to like Christmas and, mid-year or whatever, end of fiscal year. But I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot to look at like in corporations all around, just like, listening to people. But
anyway, that's
just not happening in the next 4 years. I can tell you that.
I wish it would.
Yeah. Not if that man has anything to do with it. He would ever give up anything to do with like making extra money. He's like money.
Oh,
thing.
One other thing. I sent you this thing. It was from Reddit, and the question was, what scientific advancements are we like close enough to making that people don't know about? And one of them was the ability to regrow your teeth. They're working like there's a protein that gets turned on when like you lose your baby teeth, and that's how you get your grown-up teeth. Mm-hmm. And so they're working on a way to turn that protein back on so you can regrow your teeth. But it regrows all of your teeth, and they grow in the same way that they grew in the first time. So if you've had braces, they grow in crooked again. But I'm just like, what if you like lost a tooth, it got knocked out, and you just want to regrow that one tooth, but now you got to regrow all of them? Like, do like that's kind of creepy. And what if you can't turn the protein off and you just get really long teeth?
Yeah, no. I mean, there's some things that like, it doesn't seem like they should be a thing.
But it's also kind of cool.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like that idea. Yeah, I'm like, I mean, I don't know. Like watching your kids' teeth grow in is like its own thing. Cause like, there's like periods of time where their faces just don't look like they should.
They're going to be able to handle the teeth.
Yeah. And you're like, oof. And then finally their faces adjust. So you think about like when you're a kid, then you're still growing other places too. So then like once you do that, I don't know, like, is your face going to just look funny? Like, is everybody just going to walk around with like buck teeth?
I don't know.
Yeah. Looking super crazy. Like, I don't know. It could be.
But they're also like really close to regrowing like the hair in your ear to cure tinnitus.
What? Why?
Because tinnitus sucks.
This is dumb. I feel like they're wasting time. But they need to be doing like,
Do you have tinnitus?
no, do
Because it's
you?
terrible. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess it's because it's not something I am like affected by. So maybe it's just me.
Yeah. I
But
have pulsate tinnitus, which means
I
like,
was like, well, to me, why don't you guys work on like fucking trying to make sure that like we have enough water?
oh, yeah, I think people are
Like
working on that.
turn sea, salt water into like potable water.
I do think that they can. It's called desalination. I think that it's possible now. It's just really expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to talk about the English teacher. It's so tragic because the lead guy and his friend, the teacher, in real life, the actor and the actress, terrible people. They just got hit with a whole expose. They were all on a show. They were both on a show with this other guy, and Alvarez is the lead actor, and he was the lead actor on this other show. He's a showrunner, and he sexually harassed a guy like in a real bad way. And
Oh,
then
man.
the girl gaslit him about it and was like, "Well, if you were uncomfortable, you just should have said something."
But I think that unfortunately that reaction is so common. I think that people like really need to understand. It's like when you had to teach people that you can't ask women and men, like heterosexual couples after they get married, when are they going to have kids?
Right.
Like, like people had to learn that. And so I was like, I can maybe give a little bit more grace to like, oh, you should have said something. Cause I feel like a lot of people really believe that.
Yeah.
Like I remember somebody had to apologize for calling people babe and stuff at work. And then someone was like, thank you for apologizing. But, I never had a problem with it. And if I did, I would have said something. And I was like, not the point.
Right.
Read the room. But
it's just so sad that it's not going to get renewed now. And we have to.
Totally.
Well, I hate that.
Me too. And I think that that's like part of like the whole, I kind of keep thinking about this because remember when Kendrick, when he was like, I'm going to take all my music off of Spotify if y'all start censoring, because like there's so many terrible people in like all of these industries.
Right.
Like, so it's like, even when like that whole thing with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was coming out, I was like, well, I met him. Seemed like a really nice guy, but you really aren't capable of knowing anything. So like,
I know.
I'm not in it.
And then there's the whole question
I
of
also
like,
don't like her. But like
right.
when you don't like a person, like I didn't like Blake Lively before any of this. So it's like,
right.
how do you reconcile the two? It's like, oh yes, I want to support women, but I also feel like you're a mean girl who's like completely out of touch and like super rich, so it's like we don't feel like I need to support you anyway. But then like now it's like you're saying you were victimized and you're like, oh, so should I support you now or still just.
This is really fucked up. And like I guess this is where people who are like, oh, everything's too PC or whatever. I guess it's like where I cross their path because like even reading some of those things, I am like, you were the EP. You had the power to fix those things.
Yeah.
So like if there wasn't an intimacy coordinator on set, you were the boss. You weren't doing your job. Right?
Yeah, I
and
think
you
that
victimize yourself by not doing your job.
Thing too, like because I feel like again, like just how you were saying, we've all been in places where the boss is like completely out of touch and like driving a new like expensive car every year. Like I feel like we've also all been places where like your manager doesn't realize that they're the fucking manager.
Yeah,
and they're like, well, what are we gonna do? No, bitch, what are you gonna do?
You gonna do?
Like you are the guy, you're the man,
right?
Like. What are you doing? So like, I just feel like in some cases, and also, I mean, just like along those lines with Lizzo's interview with Kiki this week.
Right.
She talked about the whole thing. And it was like, the thing is that like, it really didn't clear anything up for me. Like, yes, like your charges were dismissed. But unfortunately, like what I felt like was what happened was that she doesn't understand that she's not their coworker.
Right.
Like, she doesn't understand positionality and power.
A complete lack of boundaries.
And like, you just don't understand. She's like, it was all good. And then they sued. I'm like, right.
What did you think was going to happen, ma'am?
Ma'am, what the fuck?
Right.
Like when you're in a position of power, even if you're like, everybody could go and this is how I invited everyone and they all had a good time. You are the boss. So whether I went or not, like I'm feeling like I have to go. It's just like when you go to holiday parties, like at some point I was talking to someone and they were like, I don't feel like going. I was like, you got to go show face. You got to go be a team player. You got to, you know what I mean? You got to do the things. Like there's politics when you don't think there's politics. And when
there's always politics. I had this, he wasn't even my manager, but he would do this thing where like we would have, and again, incredibly inappropriate, but trying to be fun. We would have like our quarterly meetings in the bar, and like you would have the quarterly meeting and then you could stay behind and drink, and you kind of felt like you had to. So he would have one beer. He'd give somebody he trusted $100 and go buy and say, buy a round and I want my change. And then he would bounce. You know what I mean? Like you have to like understand, what did Denzel say? You got to leave before the devil shows up.
Right. I think that that's a thing. Like, I think that so many people are like, I'm not any better than you. And they like want to prove that. And they don't really understand that it doesn't matter.
It's like, not, you're not like better than me, but you are different than me.
Yeah. But I think that they think that like once they accept that they hold a position of power, that they are like inherently saying that I'm better than you and therefore I deserve different treatment. But that's not what's happening. And I feel like as soon as there's like a quote from James Baldwin, like nothing that's not faced can be changed. It's like, if you don't think about the fact that you are in this position of power, you're never going to do anything to like really be among the people. Because like at the end of the day, like, yeah, I can be cool all you want, but if I see you like drink that beer and then go to work, I'm still going to have to write you up.
Right.
Like, it doesn't really matter that I feel like I'm a cool guy. I'm still the man. You know, so
maybe like that's the key to class consciousness, is like people have to recognize. I also remember having this conversation like at my very first corporate job. There was this guy and he did get promoted to manager, right? And like, but before then he was like a big jokester. He's everybody's friend, blah, 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 blah. And so like I walked to somebody's office to like drop off some papers. So I was like, oh, what are you guys talking about? And they're like, oh, Aaron, you know, now that he's a manager, he's acting all snooty and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you're our friend. You're supposed to be our friend. And I was like, he's not your friend. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was like, he's not your friend. He's your manager. Like, he got promoted. And they're like, yeah, but he was our friend. I was like, correct. But like, how many times did you go over his house? Like, y'all aren't good friends. You were work friends and now he got promoted. And if you were in that position, you wouldn't want to jeopardize it either, because your first priority is to your family. So you can't hold that against him. You just he is the man and you have to.
Yeah. And if it were opposite and he made a crass joke, then she's going to run to HR.
Right.
You know, so it's like, it's the same, like, you know, like it's all fun and games until somebody gets punched in the mouth. And that's usually what happens. It's like, yeah, we're all cool. But now, like, you know, just like the same thing is like, oh, I'm a manager and like some of these people are my friends. But like when they're not my friends, now they feel isolated. Now they feel like they're being iced out of meetings, you know? So it's like, there's like this thing that like gets blown up because now we're like merging the two. So
right.
Be an effective manager, you almost have to, because there's no way for people to not.
Yeah. And I think people like conflate where their positionality in a company and they're like, I deserve to know these things and blah, 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 blah. Because it makes you feel like a fucking kid. Makes you feel like a child when you get left out. And so like, it is really hurtful, but you should also be really conscious of how hurtful it is.
Yeah, but it's like, it is also too, like, I think that for managers, they think they're saving time because when I've tried to do the transparency thing, you just never know how people are going to respond.
Right.
So then like, let's say I'm trying to make a decision and then I tell you, oh, I'm thinking about doing XYZ. Then you start acting on XYZ. But I was like, no. I just said I was thinking about it. You know, I had to think of all the pros and cons. That's not what I ended up doing. What we ended up doing was XYZ. But some people just like, once the first thing they hear, that's what they're going with. And so then you learn that as a manager, even though that's not everybody, you learn that. And then this starts making you be like, well, I can't tell everybody what I'm doing until I'm ready. Like it needs to be, I can't have a discussion because some people are going to run with the first thing I said, even though that's not what we landed on. So I think that it's all of it is like a matter of past hurts and
Yeah, but I also feel this way about government, which is probably not very woke of me or whatever. But I feel like people are like, we need transparency. We need to know what the government's doing. And I'm like, no, you don't. No,
yeah.
you don't. Like a lot of y'all can't handle it, and you have no idea. You're not being realistic about what states have to do, like state actors have to do in order to maintain their sovereignty and to maintain their position in the world. We do a lot of fucked up shit. And at some point, like, you just have to square it. Like every single state does. You're not going to be able to leave this country and go to a country that doesn't do fucked up shit. Should they be doing fucked up shit? I don't know. Like, that's a different conversation.
Yeah,
But
there's
they
like
are.
fucked up shit leads itself to fucked up shit. Like
Right.
all the kids that, you know, that do make it out of Gaza are going to, you know, have a legitimate
Beef with something else. And so, like,
terrorist.
until there comes a point where, like, I don't know, aliens come and then we all go, okay, everything that happened prior to this, we got to put it behind us and we got to deal with the alien situation. It's probably not going to happen. And so, like, but people don't have the capacity to, like, to
Well, they
square
also don't
that. You know what I
understand
mean?
like where their neighbor is. Like your neighbor is a dumbass and like they don't even know that like, you know, there's 3 branches of government. So like you're saying we need all this information, but like your neighbor can't even read the fucking newspaper.
Right.
So what are they
They
going
don't
to
read past the headlines. Right.
Yeah, like what are they going to do with that information? Because even when I'm like, I know like policy wise, when I'm reading stuff, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, trying to look for policy implications. But like there's a bunch of stuff that I don't know. And it kind of sends me on my own rabbit hole of like researching and trying to figure out like what things mean and how they might affect people. But like most people don't do that. And then if they did, and we just all like, again, like most stuff, like when you're looking on these, like you can do legislation trackers, you can watch them like change the bill, you know, get introduced, it gets marked up, goes to committee, it gets, you know, whatever. So you see all of these changes. But like, again, if most people are like, oh, let me just look at this version here and then be like, this is what they're doing. Well, that bill wasn't voted on, or this bill wasn't, you know, signed. You like what actually happened at the end. And most people aren't going to follow that along.
Right. Which is why they think everything's a conspiracy, because you don't understand how anything works or why it needs to work the way that it does.
Yeah.
And that is not to say that it cannot be improved and things can't get better, but you're never going to be able to actually affect that change unless and until you understand what's happening. And I think like that's the fundamental dilemma in a democracy, is that there are these people with a lot of power to vote, but they don't understand what's happening, what's going on, and they don't seek to understand it past a certain point,
Yeah. But I
especially.
think that like in terms of like the history of stuff, you know, like there's just a lot to consider when you're like looking at things.
Yeah, and it's way too much for a single person who also has a job and a family and other responsibilities to understand every single aspect of, you know what I mean, of
Yeah, but
what's.
people are way too like comfortable just talking.
Yeah,
I think
I agree.
where they're just like, hey, this is my really dumb opinion. You know, and you're like, I wish you would approach this with more humility of like, I'm not sure, but isn't this XYZ? And then we could all be like, no, you dumbass, instead of being like, now I have to call you a dumbass. Like, you know, maybe
Right. Or like placing way too much importance on the amount that your opinion should matter to me. Like,
yeah,
your opinion should matter the most to you, and then I get to decide how much your opinion matters to me, because I don't consider you a subject matter expert.
well,
So,
it's just like I saw one video today where a man was stitched a different video, and she was like, you know, you guys are all upset about the current healthcare system, but this is Obamacare, and we told you guys. And he was like, no, that's not Obamacare, you ding dong. You know, like anyway, but it's like this is the version of Obamacare that actually made it through,
right.
but it didn't. It's not what makes CEOs like turn down everybody's.
Right. This is what happens when you pass legislation and then don't keep passing legislation,
Yeah,
because you don't
they just
understand how
like
things
come up
work.
with loopholes.
Legislation happens, then people adjust, and then more legislation has to happen
Mhm.
because you don't know how people are going to react to that legislation. But when
Right.
you don't when all you want to do is repeal the thing, you spend all your time trying to take it away instead of just changing it according to what's happening
Right.
today, then
But I
this is
think
what
the other
happens.
challenge is like when folks are talking about changing it, they're not talking about changing it for the betterment of the people. It's
Right.
like for more money because they have this flawed narrative that like when folks are making more money, they're going to like share that wealth with the people that they serve. And that's just not true.
And again, that boggles my fucking mind because we've been saying this since the 80s. So 40 years of this, and it hasn't happened yet. So at what point do they think that the clouds are going to separate and money starts raining down? It hasn't. It hasn't happened. It's not going to.
Yeah. Girl, I don't know. But yeah, so anyway, but yeah, I don't know. It's like it's a depressing thing, but I am curious about it just as a, what would you recommend if you wanted to like learn more about policy? I know you have like a full ass MPA.
I
So like,
do.
for the rest of us, like how do you get like what courses or certifications would you recommend?
I don't even think that you need like a course or a certification. I think that like there's this three. It might be like 20 hours, but it's like broken up. But there's this guy, and it's out. It's probably outdated at this point, and he does like the whole history of the United States, and he's like the real history of the United States, and it's one season of this podcast, and he goes through it, and I mean it came out in like maybe 2008 or something like that.
And you think that would help with policy analysis?
I think that like you have to reckon with like the real history of the United States, and then I think that there are also really good. I mean, there are really good TikToks, there are really good YouTube videos that break down like this is what happens to a bill, this is what a markup is, this, you know what I mean? Like the information is there and it's consumable, and you can even find the person who you like the way that they explain things. Like get on YouTube and look for somebody who has credentials and they will explain it to you and you can learn exactly what you want to learn. And if I had to make a list of things to learn, I would understand what happens to a bill. And I don't care if you even have to go back to fucking Schoolhouse Rock, because there's a fucking song, I'm just a bill and I'm sitting on Capitol Hill, and it tells you what happens to that fucking bill. If you just stop there, you'd have more information than a lot of people, but you can take it further.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it comes in like 5-minute increments.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is why it's kind of frustrating,
I think that the thing about policy is like, again, like some of my work is in policy is like, it's really dense when you're reading.
It is really dense. And nobody's asking everybody to like read what's happening. Like, I don't have the capacity to read policy. I have the ability to read policy. I don't have the capacity to read policy. Right. So I just look to the experts, look to somebody who is explaining it to you, and then get a second opinion about it to see if they explained it better. And I don't understand why people don't have at least that amount of intellectual curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully that, sparks some kind of conversation or like a curiosity for people. But what things are you watching? Did you watch this week?
I don't know if I watched anything this week, but I started reading again on my quest to like understand genres and market. I wanted to read a James Patterson book. James Patterson gets like a lot of flack for like, he releases like 100 books a year. Like it's an insane amount of work. And he only does that because he has ghostwriters. They call them ghostwriters, but really they're co-authors. He puts their name on the front of the books. They're not ghostwriters. And then he also gives like huge bonuses to like independent bookstores. So that's really awesome. He keeps a lot of bookstores in business.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But people don't like it because he like turns out like a high volume of work and they don't feel like it's quality. So
I cop procedurals, right? Like,
yeah, like his biggest character was Alex Cross. And I read like the first time I read an Alex Cross was like the first time I was coming to visit you. So like 11 years ago. And I was like, this is fine. Like this is consumable. And that was when they were getting made into movies, right? Like there's with Ashley Judd and Morgan Freeman. Kiss the Girls is in Alex Cross.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so his shit gets made into movies and it's consumable. So I wanted to, and he's on like book 33 of the Alex Cross series. And I started reading it and I was like trying to figure out like, why do people keep reading it? You know what I mean? Like you've stuck with something for 33 books. Like, why are you reading it? And it occurred to me, like a lot of people, and this is again, I don't know why this is the word of the episode, but like when people are like, it's so woke, and if a white person wrote a black person, black people always freak out. And I was reading it and I was like, actually, James Patterson's very white and Alex Cross is very black. And even when he's writing him, like down to the food, I'm like, that's some black shit. You know? And I'm like,
I thought that
like,
they just made him black in this last iteration.
No, he's black in the books. Like he has a son named Ali even.
Wow.
And so like, it's not true, right? And like it just goes to prove the point.
Well, what about the guy who did The Wire? Like all of the Wire characters,
right? And so like people are constantly like, black people. The reason books are more diverse is because black people are so sensitive. And I'm like, this has been going on for 33 books, and nobody has said shit. And do you know why? It's because he's a fully fleshed character, and he's not a fucking stereotype. But he's also not.
Oh, yeah, cheat on my baby mama.
Right.
I got 6 kids that I didn't know about.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, there are so many examples of that. And then I was thinking about Fourth Wing. I don't know if you know anything about Fourth Wing. Mm-hmm. So it's written by this woman, Rebecca Yarros, and she's a white lady, and she usually writes like military romances. Mm-hmm. But so she turned all the planes, if it's like an Air Force romance, she turned all the planes into dragons. She wrote this fantasy book. And she released 2 books like in the same year. Okay. And so she was releasing them so fast because fantasies are like epic. Like they're huge books. They're like 1,000 pages. Yeah. And so she released them so fast that it didn't get like good editing, and it didn't get, it wasn't edited well. Right. Yeah. Like it didn't get fully fleshed out. And so people are like, why are women reading this drivel? Women are anti-intellectual. Why would you read this? Why is this so popular? Blah, 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 blah. And like, my argument is it is written well. It's not edited well, edited well, number one. And then number two, again, when I think about it, people are always saying like all these books that come out that are fantasy romance are really white. Like every character is white. If there is a black person, they're like a side character. They walk into a room and walk out. But she didn't do that. Like her main character has a disability. Her main character's best friend is a black woman who's also a lesbian and doesn't feel like a trope. You know what I mean? Like she feels like a fully fleshed out character. You meet her family and all this stuff. And then the male main character that everybody lusts after, if you look at the fan art, he's white. And like the author herself has come out and been like, no, this is not a white person. This is what he looks like. He's black. Yeah. Sorry. And people like don't like that. And I'm like, again, this is a very diverse book. And it's like, it was like effortless. Like you just have to like write people as people. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And do like a little bit of research.
Probably a little bit of piece where folks don't see people that they don't have like a personal connection with as people. So it's harder to do.
Yeah, and that's weird. And I just wish people would like challenge that about themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that reading does that. I mean, like if you actually are a reader, like you might do that. Like, but
I that is my contention as well, but only if you're like, there's so many people who are like very loud and proud and they're like, I just don't want to read a book that I can't connect with. And if like the main character's not white, I can't connect with them. And like, they think that that's like, they don't need to challenge that at all. And I'm like,
what, like,
but number one, you did, because a lot of white people who say that connected with Zayden in this book, and they didn't even realize he was black because they don't recognize that he didn't just have a tan. Like she wasn't describing a person with the tan, like she was describing a person of color.
But you know, I think that the thing for me that's always interesting is like when I read, I don't remember the characteristics of like what the person looks like.
Right.
unless
But
it's central to the story.
I think that
A lot of
comes from like not. I think that comes from like. I think that people of color, when they read, we do have like a separation from the characters in the story. Like what I'm noticing, like listening to people talk about it and reading critiques, is that when you're the dominant person and you're in all the books that you read, they self-insert. They're not like, this is a character and I want to see what's happening.
Mhm.
Like, and even to the point where I feel it's really weird. Like sometimes I feel like the characters are my friends, and like when a story's over, I'm like, oh, I'll never see him again. I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like I can connect with the character that way, but they don't connect with it that way. They're like that character. And so like they cannot see it any other way, and they can't do it, and they don't challenge themselves to do that. And it's weird to me.
Yeah, that is weird. Well, I actually just watched the Alex Cross series on Amazon Prime this week. So it's kind of interesting that you're reading the James Patterson books, and I just watched that series.
How was it? It's fine, right?
Yeah,
like, it's
it was
not
fine.
remarkable.
I just was like, I was frustrated that there were so many like surprises that weren't surprises.
Right.
You know, did you see it?
No, but that's true in the books too. You're like, okay, like you're just doing a lot, and obviously all these things have to come together.
Yeah, whereas like, oh, it's this person. Oh, it's this person. Like you personally know the criminal. You personally like are connected to the person that is like snitching in the police force. You personally know, like,
yeah,
it just doesn't seem like, even in like other shows where it's like, oh, there's a leak. It's not like the person.
He doesn't leave room for you to be surprised.
Yeah. So like you're like, automatically this character gets introduced and you're like, oh, that person's probably this, and then it turns out that's true. So yeah, there's not a lot of like guessing room. It's not like a smart show, I wouldn't say. But I think that, the main character, his name's Alexis Hodge, maybe, or he's really good. I think he's really good. The bad guy, I thought like, oh, Jonathan Majors probably would have had that role if he wasn't, on the outskirts of Hollywood now. But I also thought that man did a good job in his role. And then the guy from New Amsterdam playing a like creepy
bad guy.
Yeah, I was like, he actually did well. Yeah. I was like, good for you, versatile. And I was like, it's really interesting because he had like a lot of the same cadence and like, but when you take like that calm and kind of like kind demeanor and change it to like, I'm a psychopath, then it's terrifying.
Chilling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually terrifying. So anyway, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so that's what I read. And then did I finish anything? I started that, and then I also wanted to read, because I think I figured out like the plot for my story. And so I was like, I just want to read like some other like romantic suspense. Yeah. And so I went like, and I looked up like a list, and there's this author, and she's really popular now, but she does, I've never read any of her books, and I've never read them because I've heard that they're like more sex than there is plot. And I was just like, I don't know. Yeah. So I've never read them, but she apparently started out writing romantic suspense. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll go read those. And it was really bad. And it made me feel like, okay, I can really do this.
Right.
Like, this is bad. And this woman's had a long career.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that like, like I said, I think that like you'll learn that it's not as deep as you might think.
Yeah. I think I learned that this week.
Yeah. And I think that like, you just, but I think Doechii and how do you say her name? Doechii. Yeah. Doechii and Billie Eilish, like as you watch artists do like interviews, they're like, give yourself permission to be bad. Like just write the thing. And then just like be bad at it, instead of being like, oh, I, this isn't very good. Just like, allow yourself to be bad. And then go from there.
I think that's like the lesson.
Like we're both really talented. I think Doechii, obviously took her a lot longer to like get recognized. but I think they're both super talented writers. And
Did you see Dochi sing with Issa Rae?
yeah, it was so cute.
I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, it was very.
Also, Issa Rae looks good. I feel like she got a stylist or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed. Okay. Well, anyway, I guess that's probably a good place to stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been a great time talking to you. Actually, like to go back to Issa Rae and Doechii, I didn't, when Issa Rae was reading that, I was like, is she on the album? But then people were like, no, that was actually Doechii on the album that did that whole talking part. Issa just does it really well. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, that was really convincing.
Yeah, it was like watching Issa's rap in the mirror like come to life.
Yeah,
like,
it was really cool. I really liked it. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well.
All right. Well, this has been. It's fine, sweetie. It's a podcast.
Thanks, sweetie.
And I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the It's Fine, Sweetie podcast.